we are going to go into our final segment, and taking us in is Kelley.
Okay, this is a look back, and we're going to talk about Thomas Jefferson and how he refused to acknowledge Thanksgiving. And you're probably thinking, wait a minute, there was no Thanksgiving when Jefferson was president, and you would be correct. It wasn't finalized as a national holiday until Abraham Lincoln. But both presidents that preceded Jefferson, Washington, and Adams both declared national days of Thanksgiving. And Jefferson had the opportunity to do that as well, but refused. And this article kind of examines why. And mostly it comes down to the fact that while Jefferson might have been irreligious, he also believed in states' rights. And he thought should be up to the state to declare a day of Thanksgiving. So I'm not sure if that's correct. If correct or not, Ben, what do you think? Was that correct? The correct way to look at it, or should we just throw Thanksgiving into the trash heap anyway?
I mean, when I read this, it was definitely what I gathered was that he refused to celebrate due to the lack of separation between church and state. And I think that really missed the point of the problem with Thanksgiving. Like, yeah, I mean, it is a problem that there isn't separation of church and state. But if you think about Thanksgiving and the fact that a bunch of colonists came over and genocided a people, that would be a better reason maybe to avoid it. Like, hey, I don't like this holiday because we killed people, is probably a better focus than, I don't support this holiday because of the separation between church and state, but I don't really care about, the people that we stole land from. So I don't know. It was a very weird article, and maybe I'm not looking at it right, but like, it seems like some misplaced priorities to me a little bit. I don't know, Richard. What do you think?
I don't know. I've got to be honest. Before I read this article, I've learned more in this article about Jefferson in one sitting than I ever knew about him before. I've wrote this, so I'm going to say it now. Although reading it back, it's horrendous. All I knew was that he had a private jet, a pet white rabbit, and was married to Grace Slick. That's all I knew about Jefferson before. There's a joke for the old timers. Kelley, you'll get it. But no, apparently there was much more to him than that. And he had a life and career that was rich with controversy. The examples given in the article that he was obsessed with mastodons, which are prehistoric elephants, for those of you who didn't know. And he thought they still lived in America. And he had some very mixed messages about slavery. And of course, his resistance to endorsing Thanksgiving. And I'm with Ben on the confusion here, because the reasons given in the article for his not supporting Thanksgiving was because he didn't agree with it with regards to the separation of church and state. But yet later on in the same article, it tells us that when he was governor, he was absolutely fine with it. And it was fine for a governor to be fine with Thanksgiving. So it seemed to kind of completely belittle the reasons he'd given for being against it to start with. It was like his whole stance had changed with his political position. Kelley.
It's a little more nuanced than that. Because he was a real states' right advocate. He was in direct opposition to Alexander Hamilton, who was espousing the Federalist system, right? So when he says that we should build this wall between religion and the government, he was talking about the federal government, not the state government, right? And this is an idea that just carried down with that recent overturning of Roe v. Wade. It was the same type of philosophy that the SCOTUS pursued in that ruling. Oh God, you're really just getting tongue-tied today. But that the state should be able to decide these things and not the federal government. So Jefferson, while you think he's like walking two different ways here, or having a foot on two sides of a fence, he's actually looking at both of them as two completely different things, right? But he was a complete advocate of keeping the federal government out of any religious practices or ideals, and that culminated in his famous letter to the Danbury Baptists, which is quoted in this article and has been used countless times as an example of what the founding fathers intended for the subject of that separation, right? He himself, while he displayed deist attitudes, and I thought it was interesting in this article that he was even accused of being an atheist because he wouldn't declare a national day of Thanksgiving. But he did display deist attitudes, and he even wrote, "In any age, the priest has been hostile to society." He was also quoted as saying in 1803, "I am Christian in the only sense in which Jesus wished anyone to be." So, and a bit ambiguous, most likely on purpose for his time period, but it doesn't seem to be much different than modern day politicians either, keeping one foot on either side of the fence. So, in a lot of ways, though, his religious ideals mirrored some of what the Universalist Unitarians preach today, including the idea that the miracles of Jesus were just fictional. So, I have a lot of mixed views on Jefferson, but I'm sure most people do. So, Ben, what do you think? You
Yeah,
want to add to it?
I mean, with this whole thing, like I see a lot of atheists, especially, but also most Americans get hung up on these founding fathers. And well, the founding fathers wanted this, or like they wanted this thing. Like they were literally just people with some good ideas and some really awful ideas. And this whole argument of, well, they were deist or they were theist or they were atheist, like I don't really care. And the fact that even if Jefferson, like even if his goal was to separate church and state, we see problems with his other ideas and where his intentions lie with slavery and with colonization and ways to treat other human beings. So his views on Thanksgiving, uh, just I don't know, maybe there's too much respect in general given to the founding fathers, and maybe we need to dial back and say, hold on. Like, can we view these founding fathers as people with ideas and critique their ideas without putting them on some pedestal that maybe they don't deserve? I don't know, Richard, what do you think?
Yeah, I was just going to piggyback on you anyway from the aspect of, you know, the founding fathers having different ideas on different subjects and some of them not being altogether savoury. I think from an outsider's perspective, looking in at America, what I see regarding the founding fathers is that, and I think this touches on that point perfectly about all the different ideas, is that they mean anything to whoever's looking, the political persuasion of those who are looking at them. Right wing people see them as kind of supporting their stance, left wing people see them as supporting their stance. And I think it's just because, and I'm by no means an expert on this in any way whatsoever, but I think it's partly due to the fact that they have such wide-ranging views, and for a lot of the cases, for the time, they were quite liberal, and in other cases, they had the attitudes of the time. And you can, if you want to pick and choose from somebody like that, you can pick and choose from somebody like that, and I think that's a real problem. In regards to all of the founding fathers, is that you can kind of, if you don't do as I know we've talked about Andrew Seidel's fantastic work on this book before. He's done some great work looking at that kind of period and what the founding fathers actually wanted. And their opinions for kind of the separation in church and state. And I think that'd be a good place to look if you want more nuance into that side of it. I think in general, and this is a general article like a lot of the ones we've looked at are today, I think you can take what you want from what you want. For me, this article, Kelley went into some great detail in this article. For me, it was just, they were just trying to squeeze as much as they could out of a headline. I mean, the article even told us that he helped popularize macaroni and cheese in the US after sampling it in France. You know what I mean? And that for me, that's what I took away from the article, and that's maybe it says more about me than than the article itself. But the fact that they had to put that in there tells me that it wasn't an article of much substance to begin with. So come on, let's go to Ben first for his final thoughts on this one.
You know, I mean, I've already said really what I need to say. The founding fathers, they're just people, and some ideas were great, some were not. And maybe you agree with Thomas Jefferson on Thanksgiving. I don't really care. Think what you want about his Thanksgiving views, but that's all I got.
Kelley.
Well, I think I said all I need to about the actual subject, but I do want to touch on something else you mentioned. He really did think they were going to find mammoths. He actually instructed Lewis and Clark to keep an eye out for him when he sent them on the expedition. So that's actually
that was a rabbit hole I started going down when I was doing my research on this article, and I thought I've got to stop. I cannot make this about that, although I would have liked to. Yeah, it's an interesting one. Okay, so we're coming up towards the end of the show now. I can't believe myself and Ben have got through a whole episode of a show together and not talked about British cuisine, but we've managed it. I think that's an achievement in itself. I was going to have fun on the here with Kelley and Ben every day of the week. They're just two good friends, so what's not to like about doing a show with two of your very good friends. If you want to see more of myself, Kelley, and Ben, a good way of doing that and talking about us is to join our fan social media outlets. You can find most of the non-profits hosts on the Atheist Community of Discord by going to tiny.cc/ACD-discord and on Facebook at tiny.cc/FBNP. If you would like to support the show, you can, and we would like you to. It'd be really nice. You can do so by becoming a patron at tiny.cc/PatreonMP. If you find yourself already shopping at Amazon, you can support the Atheist Community of Austin by shopping at smile.amazon.com and selecting Atheist Community of Austin as the beneficiary. Be sure to use that link to help out the ACA. We really do appreciate it, and it doesn't cost you anything. And, from friends who've been using that link, they say it's really, really good. It really, really does help the ACA. We do value your feedback. Tell us what you like and what you don't like in the comments, or email us at nonprofits@atheist-community.org. Also, visit the Atheist Community of Austin's official website at atheist-community.org on the latest of what's been happening. And feel free to contact the ACA at tv@atheist-community.org. And if you don't know that address by now, the amount of time I've just said it, then, wow, your brain needs some work, my friend. This has been a good show. Just before we end, I'm going to get some very, very quick views on this, final thoughts on the show as a whole. I'll start with Kelley.
I had a great time. I always do when I work with you, Richard. And Ben, it was really awesome to do a show with you for the first time. I was so happy. I've been so nervous actually doing a show with you because I'm a big fan of yours. So I felt like I was rubbing shoulders with greatness there, So I
don't
appreciate it.
If I'm greatness, you gotta look somewhere else because it is misappropriated. But
it's all subjective, man.
I guess if I get some last words. So since Richard brought it up, I'm going to pose a question to everybody in the chat, everybody who's watching this. I don't care when you're watching this, but I want you to leave a comment below, and I want you to either say yay or nay for peas and gravy. And that's it. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, it is. Do you know this show seems to have had a thread running through it regarding the subjects, and I think it's an important thread. Although the articles themselves have been, I've not always agreed with them. I'm not going to lie, but I think they've had a thread running through them, and I think that's a thread we could possibly bring up in the future or look at in the future. And if you want to see that, please do contact us. And that's the kind of idea of religions changing. Is it a good thing that religions change through time and try and keep up with what's happening in the kind of wider world at the expense of some of the more, let's say, conservative viewpoints? I'll leave that one with you.